Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is a 2024 KTM 790 Adventure. But it's not just any 790 Adventure. You actually can't go into the dealer and purchase this bike off the showroom floor. So this bike has a key upgrade, and that is a WP Xplor Pro suspension upgrade to the forks and the rear shock. So today I'm going to talk more about the WP Xplor Pro suspension, some of the cost considerations of doing a suspension upgrade to your bike, the cost comparison between doing an upgrade with the suspension to a standard 790 or 890 Adventure R versus just buying the rally model. We'll take this bike for a ride and then we'll have some final thoughts. All right, so before we continue any further, drop a note down in the comments below. Have you considered or are you considering doing an upgrade to the suspension on your adventure or dual sport motorcycle, and why or why not? All right, so let's talk about the WP Xplor Pro suspension. But first, let me back up just a little bit. I want to talk about the importance of the suspension on your motorcycle. And I think with adventure or dual sport motorcycles, this is even more important. The suspension has several jobs to do. Its main job, really, besides giving you a good ride and being comfortable, is to keep the tires, keep the rubber of the tires in contact with the ground. The reason that's so important is because that traction allows you to maintain control of the motorcycle. So as you're going over extreme terrain, bumps, ruts, rocks, whatever it may be, the suspension movement allowing the tire to stay in contact with the dirt is allowing you to maintain traction. The same exact principle applies on the street as well, of course. You just don't have as many bumps and things on the street, but the same principle applies. It's about maintaining your traction. So while so many people, in my opinion, wrongly focus on engine and power modifications and exhaust and airbox and getting 5 more horsepower out of your bike, in my opinion, that doesn't matter. That doesn't change anything. That's not actually going to make you faster. What actually will make you faster and allow you to ride in more control is doing a suspension upgrade and forgetting about the power and those sorts of things, which is so easy to get caught up in. All right, so why is the WP Xplor Pro suspension, why is it so cool? Why does it work so well? And why does it cost what it does? So the Xplor Pro suspension, the main thing is in the forks, you have something called cone valve technology. Without going into the engineering of it, and there's other videos on that if you want, it uses, instead of a shim stack of washers with oil flowing through there to provide damping, it uses a conical valve. And the idea behind that is that it doesn't have any of the drawbacks under severe suspension movements that a shim stack compression and rebound, valving or shim stack would have. So it eliminates the drawbacks. It gives you more control. It allows the suspension to be plush and comfortable, but at the same time, under large impacts or large loads, it allows the suspension to be supportive to allow you to maintain control at very high speeds. All right, let's go for a short ride on the custom bespoke KTM 790 Adventure Rally Edition with our WP Pro suspension. So with this rally seat and with this really tall 270 millimeter suspension, man, she is a tall bike. However, I will say that it's, because it's lightweight, relatively lightweight for an adventure bike, and the weight's pretty low, it's actually not so bad. It's not so bad to handle if you're of decent height. However, with a bike this tall, it's really best to keep things moving, and the less you stop or dab or have to come to a stop, the better. It's better when you're riding, not so much when you're stopped, where you might struggle to get your footing. Oh my God. Holy crap. Holy criminy. Trying not to curse here. I try to keep Big Rock Moto family friendly, but you might ask yourself, is it really worth the $7,000 or whatever to get the suspension? If you're an aggressive, fast off-road rider who wants to ride an adventure bike, yes.
I mean, that's all I really have to say, yes. Because what this gives you in terms of control is unparalleled from any other adventure bike ever made. Like, and it's not even close. There's not a close second. It's not like, oh, well, the Touareg or the 890R is a close second. It's not close. This is in another universe. You can ride this thing so fast. I mean, I'm not even scratching the surface of the potential of this bike. One, because I'm not a racer, and two, because I don't want to crash and damage this bike or get hurt. The best way I can describe it is you're riding over super rough, rugged terrain, ruts, rocks, dropouts, and it feels like you're floating above it. Like the bike, you don't know how much you're fighting the suspension on your own adventure bike until you ride a bike like this. Like, it feels like you're floating above it. It's almost, jeez, that's like these are like 2-foot drops, and the bike doesn't even feel it. It's like if you ever rode like in a dream, like where it doesn't even feel real. That's how good this is. But I will warn you, if you try this, you are going to want to have it. So don't try it unless you're prepared to do the upgrade. It's transformative to the bike. The thing is with this setup that it allows you to ride so fast. It takes that limitation out of the equation as a suspension, and now you're worried about, you know, your rims holding up, your tires holding up, you know, your traction. So you're going to need better tires. You're going to need stronger wheels, which the rally model comes with, and that's why I like the rally models. And you can get different wheels for your bike, of course. I would put a steering damper first thing on this, because 500 pounds of adventure motorcycle going 80 or 100 miles an hour off-road, which this bike is very comfortable doing, man, you're gonna need everything you can get. Oh my word. It feels almost unlimited, the speed that you could ride this at. Almost unlimited, which is kind of scary when you think about it. I took it on this test track because this is where I take all the adventure bikes, and I just rode the standard 790 Adventure with the stock suspension on this track. And I can ride this is like a whole different motorcycle. The suspension, you would just think, oh, it's an incremental improvement. No, it's a transformative into a different motorcycle.
So some more about the WP Xplor Pro. Obviously you have the forks, which are a big upgrade, and they will fit in the triple clamps of your 790 or 890 Adventure. And then the shock is also a major upgrade with improved valving and improved, you know, characteristics of the shock. It doesn't, you know, the shock doesn't have the cone valve technology of the forks, but it is still a major upgrade versus the suspension you would even get on the 890 or 790 Adventure R with the Xplor suspension. Now, there are several different heights you can look at. So if you buy a rally model, KTM 890R Adventure R Rally, it's going to come at 270 millimeters height of suspension travel, which is 30 millimeters more than you get on the R model and 70 millimeters more than you get on a base model 790 or 890 Adventure. Now, if you do the upgrade to your own bike, you can choose, do you want 240 millimeter travel with your Xplor Pro, or do you want 270? The best performance is going to be with that longer travel because it has more travel to work with, but the trade-offs are seat height, and yeah, it's really the trade-off is the seat height. This suspension also allows finer control on your adjustments in terms of you have way more clicks for rebound and compression damping, and you do get high and low speed compression on the rear shock, which you do get actually on the R model KTM 890 Adventure R, but this allows more fine control of that. Now, when you're talking about suspension for your motorcycle, if you're going to go out and do this upgrade to your KTM, or you're looking at suspension in general, it is very important to understand that there's no off-the-shelf suspension that is perfectly dialed in and set up for your weight, your riding style, and the loads you carry, whether that's luggage or passenger. So depending on those factors, the suspension needs to be sprung correctly for your weight. So you might get on this bike, for instance, and say, you know what, if you measure the sag and you go out and ride it, they may be oversprung or undersprung for your weight. So you really need to pay attention to getting that dialed in and work with a suspension tuner on that. At the very, very least, make sure you're setting your rear sag. The number one thing you should do on suspension on any bike to make the handling, to neutralize it out, and to get it right, is to set your rear suspension sag, because that affects the weight balance and handling of the motorcycle. All right, so we need to talk about the cost of this upgrade. The retail price to buy the parts for the fork and the shock is about $5,800 US. Now, that does not include any other parts you might need to do this conversion. It does also not factor in labor. So that's a huge notation here when I'm talking about this, is I'm not factoring in labor costs, which you may or may not have depending on if you do the work or if you have your dealer or shop do the work. Now, I'm going to put this up on the screen. I did a cost comparison because I was curious, because what KTM told me, the reason that they lent me this bike to review, to make a video with, is because their idea was, okay, we took a 790, which is only $10,999, and then we're doing a value build on this if you want the rally level performance with the Xplor Pro suspension. So that was their thinking. And I said to myself, yeah, that really is cool, because what? You're going to be like, what, 16 or 17 grand into it instead of 21,500 for the rally model. But upon further investigation, that really is not the case, and it's not that simple. So this chart will be up on the screen. If you do all of the rally upgrades, I mean, just the suspension alone is $5,800, okay? That doesn't include the installation and labor costs, which is probably going to make all this even higher. But then if you want to have an equivalent bike to the Adventure R Rally model, which is $21,500, you also have to do the Akrapovic exhaust, the Rally foot pegs, the stronger off-road wheel set, the Rally seat, and you have to get the tech pack to unlock all the features of the bike, which the Rally already comes with. So actually, to upgrade an 890 Adventure R to Rally spec will cost you $25,300, or $4,000 more than just buying the Rally to begin with. Upgrading the 790 Adventure will cost you $20,544. So as you see at this bike, now we don't have the upgraded wheel set on here, but assume that we did, and you would need that in my opinion, because with this suspension, the wheel set is going to become a major weak link at the speeds this allows you to ride. Assuming you did get that, you'd only be $1,000 cheaper apples to apples versus just getting the 890R Rally. So I would not do that, and here's why. Yeah, you're maybe saving $1,000 with the 790's case, but the resale value is not going to be as good because you still have a 790 Adventure. You could argue that maybe you got lucky when you resell it someday later, but I just don't see that happening. I think because the Rally model is an actual production limited model to 700 units worldwide, that's going to have a better resale value down the road than this would with the upgrade. Plus, with the 890, you're getting the 890 engine, which is more power and torque versus the 790 engine, even though actually the 790 runs a little bit smoother. So we've talked about some of the considerations or potential downsides to doing stuff like this. You know, usually when you improve one thing on a motorcycle, oftentimes you compromise other factors. So if you do this kind of thing, realize that you're raising your seat height. It's going to be harder to get a foot down. Also, you're potentially, and I think most people won't really notice this, and this is kind of debatable, but you're potentially making it handle a little bit slower or worse on the street for like highway cornering on the pavement, but you probably won't notice that. But I have found through testing this bike in all its different iterations that the lower versions, the versions that sit at 200 millimeters travel, handle a little bit better on the street than the taller versions. Of course, off-road, this is like 10 times better than those. So it's like, okay, you give up 10% on the road, but you gain like 1,000% off-road. So I think it's worth the trade-off. Now, would I upgrade if I had one of these bikes? I actually don't own one of these right now, although that may change soon. After riding this, I'm just, the suspension is just, I can't even describe how good it is. I love this bike so much. Would I actually do this upgrade? Well, personally, I would just go out and get a rally model, whether I bought one that was slightly used or a new one, if you can still find one for 2024, I would just buy the rally model. That's my personal take. But if you had your bike, if you had an R model or a base model that was so dialed in how you liked it and you wanted to keep that bike, and you've already paid taxes on it and done all that and worked out any bugs, yeah, then I could totally see doing the $6,000 or $7,000 upgrade. And let's be honest, it is $6,000 or $7,000 once you get the side stand, the brake line, pay for labor and other parts you might need, custom springs, whatever you need to do. You could easily spend $7,000 doing this conversion. Well, that's about it. That's about all I have. This suspension is transformative, and I think my point with this video is just pay attention to your suspension. And here's my message for you. The suspension on your motorcycle is probably the #1 thing that you need to look at improving over everything else. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching. Ride safe, and I'll see you out there.